Does someone in your family suffer from dementia? Do you worry that you may be at risk? If so, this interview with top author and visionary Dr. Paul Nussbaum will show you how you can create a proactive brain health lifestyle to lower your risk. Welcome. Hi, I'm Nicole Scheidel, CEO of Fit Minds. Today we're going to be talking with Dr. Paul Nussbaum, a neuropsychologist, author of Save Your Brain, and a leading expert in brain health. Welcome, Dr. Nussbaum.
Thanks for having me, Nicole. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
So what I want to focus on today is, if I'm someone who's caring for an individual with dementia, if it's my mom or my dad, one of the top questions in my mind has got to be, what about me? So how do I reduce my risk factors for getting dementia in later life?
Yeah, that's a very common question and fear. Unfortunately, those of us in the medical field, we're so in tune with assessing and evaluating, diagnosing the individual with the disease, we forget it's really a family systems issue. And so the caregiver that's sitting right next to the person suffering from dementia is afraid, and they may not speak up. They're kind of saying to us, what do I need to do, or am I going to get this thing we call dementia? And so we have to be in tune with the whole family system. So the first thing is really to pay attention to that concern. And there certainly is a genetic risk associated with dementia, particularly that caused by Alzheimer's disease. It's the leading cause of dementia in the world. Indeed, we're going to have over 100 million people afflicted with dementia by the year 2050 on the planet. That's alarming. And so what I try to do is talk to the caregiver about their anxieties and their fears, and then spell out for them what I believe is something important and something I've been working on for the past 15 years, is a proactive brain health lifestyle. And I think particularly caregivers today are very interested in that because they tend not to be a passive group. They want to do things they can do on a practical level to promote their health, and so they're very, very interested in this.
Okay, so before I want to dig into that a bit more, but before we get there, what are some of the mistakes you see caregivers making just generally in your practice, in your experience?
Well, I think in general, caregivers or even non-caregivers within that age range that is the typical caregiver, let's say anywhere from to 30 to even in the 60s and 70s, people will be surprised how many caregivers were actually older adults. They tend to have healthy brains, but they're under a lot of stress. And so a common mistake is that they believe their forgetfulness or their cognitive mistakes are a sign of disease. And they're really not if you think the disease is dementia. It's really a function of anxiety and worry and fatigue, and some of the things that can make the brain have some hiccups, as I like to call them. Anxiety is a very common example. You can take a student in a middle school who gets a B on a grade rather than an A, and it's not because he or she didn't study, it's because they're extremely afraid during the time of the study. And that's what anxiety does to our brain. It keeps us from remembering or processing as well as we can. So that's a very common mistake. Another common mistake for caregivers is they tend to lose attention to themselves, and so they forget about what it is they need to do to care for themselves. And if we don't care for ourselves, everything that kind of goes wrong with the body certainly is going to go wrong with the brain, and so the brain's not going to be able to do what it's designed to do, which is really brilliant things.
Okay, so we see a lot of brain games on the internet now. The internet, every time you pull it up, you have brain games coming at you. So are those kinds of brain games or that kind of brain activity really, how does that impact on brain health? Is it really important for brain health or not so important?
Yeah, one of the main things with regard to brain health is for everybody to understand that when you expose your brain to an environment, it will react. We don't have a choice. The brain will react. We can talk about shaping the brain for disease. We can talk about shaping the brain for violence. Today, we're interested in health promotion, a good thing. And so two very important words, at least from my theory, that I talk to everyone about, that I speak to, is novelty and complexity. So think about if something is new and difficult for you, you're actually engaged in an activity that is brain health promoting. And the way that this happens, Nicole, is the way I describe it is this. You want your brain to look like a jungle. When your brain is exposed to something novel and complex, It literally will create new branches of the brain cell. They're called dendrites. And across your lifespan, the more dendrites that you develop, the more your brain looks like a jungle. So if everybody can kind of just picture a jungle right now, think about that as a healthy brain. Now, think for a moment if Alzheimer's disease is a weed whacker. How long will it take a weed whacker to show any kind of imprint on a jungle? A very long time. And that's the power of a proactive brain health lifestyle, doing things like online brain exercises, or playing board games, or travel, or learning a new language, or doing crossword puzzles. All of these things, so long as they're novel and complex, will help the cells of the brain develop new branches, help your brain develop what looks like a jungle, and we call that brain resilience, by the way. And what it's doing is it's helping to delay the onset of things such as Alzheimer's disease from clinically manifesting. So that's the power of a proactive brain health lifestyle. It's not a cure, it's not a prevention, but it does help to delay the onset of disease.
Okay, so that's really great. That gives me a lot of good ideas about taking up a new language and maybe polishing up my piano skills again. But now how about physical activity? How does that impact on brain health?
Physical activity is critically important because, again, what a lot of people don't know, it's not your fault, we haven't been taught this. Every time the heart beats, 25% of the blood goes right to the brain. So being physically active is really important. When you're physically active, when you walk 1 mile a day, briskly, for 6 days a week, when you engage in aerobic exercise 3 times a week, when you dance, when you're doing aerobic exercises, your brain is being nurtured by a lot of oxygen, glucose, and it really nurtures that part of the brain so critical to memory and new learning. That's called the hippocampus. Everybody may want to try to say that. I always get my audiences to say that. That's a part of you. It's the most wonderful part of you, and some of us have never even said it. The hippocampus. It lies deep inside each temporal lobe, and it's the structure that helps us learn new information. It's also the structure, Nicole, that gets hit very early by Alzheimer's. So physical activity is really important to building up that area of our brain, to make it more, to actually make it larger and make it do more things for us than if we don't exercise. Interestingly, kids that exercise do better in school. And those of us out of school, when we physically are active and exercise, we reduce our risk of dementia.
So I know that a lot of my peers are really struggling. They have children at home and they're also caring for their parents, so they're really pressed for time. So if you could give them advice, 1 or 2 things that they could change to really impact their brain health lifestyle, what would that be?
Yeah, well, we've already talked about the power of physical exercise, so let me move on to just trying to reduce the amount of stress that you have in your life. And the way that you can do that is giving yourself 30 minutes a day to do what it is that is pleasing to you. I'm a big proponent of things like meditation, having quiet time, deep breathing exercises, yoga, prayer. Those are all really good activities to bring some balance to the brain. Another great idea is nutrition. Just increasing the good fats. Those are called omega-3 fatty acids to help the brain be more efficient, to kind of reduce vulnerabilities to mood disorder. 8 ounces of fish a week, we're told we're supposed to eat. Try to eat. 6 fistful servings of fruits and vegetables a day help to rid the body of certain toxins called free radicals. So when you think about it, Nicole, we've talked about physical activity, moving. We've talked about better nutrition. We've talked about reducing stress. And we've talked about engaging in things that are novel and complex. When you put those all together in a baby step fashion, you have a really wonderful, lifelong proactive brain health lifestyle.
And if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, folks can get a hold of me at any time at www.paulnussbaum.com. All my contact information is there.
Okay, and so for those of you listening today, if you want to engage with us on the forum and let us know how you're impacting your brain health lifestyle, that's great. Otherwise, you can also answer some of the questions below the video to get one-on-one coaching on how to improve your own brain health. And thanks so much, and we look forward to seeing you next time.